Welcome to session 3 of personal training with me. It is early in the morning, my hair is crazy, but we took our pre-workout, Evolution Nutrition, Engine pre-workout, and we are ready to go. We've got some different ones today: deadlifts, front squats, lateral lunge, calf raises, and we've got a new mobility one for you that you can check out on our Hub Mobility. It's gonna be 90-90. So let's get into that one right away. Okay, so this one is 90-90. This is just like, it's basically just describing what it is. You're gonna be sitting kind of on your butt here. You got a 90-degree angle in your front leg and then a 90-degree angle with your back leg. So this one, you wanna make sure you're squared forward to that front knee. And then what we're gonna do is this is gonna be kind of active. You're gonna keep a nice straight back and then you're just leaning over top of that front leg, trying to stay in control though. The whole point of mobility is to be in control of what you're doing, and then you'll slowly come back up. I like to just kind of go 1, 2, 3 down, find that spot where you're kind of feeling that tightness, sit there for about 3 seconds, and then come back up. But ideally you want to do it like how she's doing, where she's got no hands on the ground, and you can be in control of this movement all the way. I am not quite there yet, so I still have to put a hand on the ground. But with this one, you'll do like 5 to 10, and then we'll switch to the other leg. Another point with this one is you want to focus on pressing both knees and ankles into the ground. So you don't want any lifting of either. Typically where you have some weaknesses or mobility issues, that will start to happen. So make sure you're pressing all points into the ground. Okay, going into the next one, we're gonna do that hip flexor lunge one that we've done in a past session. So this one, you're just in that lunge position. Make sure your knee is kind of over top of your ankle. We're not too far forward, too far back. And what you're focusing on is tucking your tailbone. So we're not gonna lean forward into it. We're just gonna tuck our tailbone underneath us. And then you should feel that maybe up here in the hip flexor or down all the way to the quad. And this one you are just holding. Another thing you can do with this one is tucking your tailbone, holding for a few seconds, and then releasing, and kind of making it an active movement. Also, if you're not feeling this one as much, what you can do is take that back leg and rotate your foot outward, and that should give you a little bit more of a stretch down in that hip flexor. And then what I like to do is just cycle back and forth between the two. So like usual, just do that about 2 or 3 rounds back and forth between the two, and you should be pretty ready to go for the workout. So now we're gonna jump into our exercises for the day. We're gonna start with deadlifts. So this one's kind of a more complex one, so there might be a lot to it, but I'll try to break it down as simply as I can. Okay, so with this one, this is just a standard deadlift. There's even a couple ways to do this standard deadlift. A lot of people you'll see will do like a reverse grip, one overhand, one underhand, whichever way you feel comfortable. I have started to get into just both overhand. There's some benefits to this. It kind of feels more comfortable, but what can tend to happen is like one arm becomes stronger than the other. So make sure you're switching back and forth if you do the alternate. But I'm just gonna be doing standard overhand. So with this one, shoulder width apart stance, and you're basically just picking something up off the ground with good form. That's the simplest way to think of it. You wanna keep your back straight, your chest up, all of the things I'm sure you've heard before, but just really focusing on creating that tension as you stand up with the bar. Keeping the bar as close to you as possible. The most common issue with this exercise is people use too much of their back. So a lot of times what happens is the bar gets too far out in front of them, and then you kind of see a lot of motion with the back to where you want to think about everything in unison. What I'm thinking about as I pull the bar up is using legs. I'm trying to push and use my legs as much as possible, not my back. So I'm trying to keep the bar close and I'm pushing up with my legs, not hinging at the hips to bring the bar up. My last point with this one, as I'm getting down into my stance and I'm about to lift or even mid set, I'm thinking about creating tension throughout my whole body. So I'm squeezing the bar with my hands and my forearms. I'm squeezing my back, making sure that's tight. I'm gripping the ground with my toes. And as I go to lift, everything has tension and I'm lifting up because it's a full body exercise. So you want to create tension throughout your whole body. Okay, that was it for the deadlift. So now we're moving into the front squat. This one is a little unique and not a lot of people do it. So if you've never done front squat with a barbell, I would recommend doing it with like a kettlebell, a dumbbell, or a plate. And I'll show you what that can look like right here. So with that, I'm holding the plate out in front of me. I kind of have my elbows up. With the barbell, that's what you want to focus on, is having those elbows up and a nice strong posture here. So starting with a dumbbell or a plate holding like that would be a good beginner way to start doing this exercise. Okay, with this front squat, because of the weight loaded in front of you, it is meant to test the structure of your back. So if you are really feeling it in your back, don't be alarmed. That is normal, and it's part of the benefit of this exercise. So with that, it's even more important to make sure that you're not leaning too far forward or putting any more unnecessary pressure on your lower back. You want to make sure you have a nice straight up and down posture and keeping a good structure all the way down, all the way back up. Okay, the last few things with these. Because the bar is placed out in front, it's kind of an awkward position on your shoulders. So just find what is comfortable for you. But then what you want to think about is driving those elbows upward. If you let that bar kind of roll forward, that's going to put that unnecessary pressure on the lower back. So really focus on driving those elbows up and back. And then I like to use this one as a quad exercise. So what I'm thinking about is as I go down, my quads are lengthening out. And then when I'm coming up, I'm thinking about flexing and tightening all my quads as I come back up. Okay, moving on to the next one, we're gonna do lateral lunge. So this is a super important one to do because with leg exercises, a lot of the time it's just forward and back, to where moving laterally is gonna give you that different plane of motion, which is super important if you wanna create a healthy, well-balanced body. So lateral lunge, we're stepping to the side. It's super beneficial. Yeah, do them. So just like with the front squat, this is going to be front loaded, so there's going to be a little bit more pressure on the lower back. So we want to make sure that we're keeping a nice straight up and down structure. But as you're doing this one, you're going to be stepping with one leg and keeping the other leg there. Whatever leg you step with, that's the one that's going to bend. The other leg is going to stay straight. So as you step, what I want to do is I want to point my toe in a direction that my knee can easily follow that pathway. If I step straight to the side and keep everything forward, this is kind of an awkward position for that knee to travel. And then you kind of have this, my knee's going this way, but my toe's going this way, and that can be kind of weird for the tendons and ligaments in the knee. So I'm gonna point kind of at a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to go down into that lunge. And then I'm pressing back up with this one leg. So it's kind of a single leg exercise. With this one, I would highly recommend doing it in front of a mirror. That way you can see that your knee is following your toe as you go. Another thing with this one that can help with the comfortability of it is as you step, think of heel to toe. So strike the ground with your heel first and then your toe, kind of like a rolling effect. And then as you push off, just try to push off with the entirety of your foot. So I'm stepping heel, toe, rolling into it, and then pushing back out. Heel, toe, pushing back out. So as you can see, Courtney just did a different variation. There's a couple different ways you can do these. I would say do what you feel comfortable with. So what she did was just a stationary position, but the mechanics stay the same. So as you go into one side, this leg stays straight, this leg bends, my knee follows my toe, and I push back up. So you can do this one stationary as well. You could do it the version before where we're stepping and do one leg at a time, or you can do it where you alternate back and forth between the two. But do what feels comfortable. All right, and then the last exercise for the day is calf raises. So we've done this one before. Simply, it's just make sure that your feet, your ankles, your knees, your hips are all in the same line. You're going up in a straight structure. No billowing out of the ankles or knees or billowing in of the ankles or knees. You want to stay nice and straight up. Okay, that's it for the exercises. Now we'll finish up with our stretching. Okay, as always, making it nice and easy, we will go back into the same positions that we started with. So starting with the 90-90. Same mechanics as before, sitting up nice and tall, pressing into the ground with our knees and ankles, and then we're gonna lean over top of that front leg. Make sure you're pressing forward and not just hunching over your knee, but then we're gonna sit in here and do a static hold for about 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, we'll do both sides 2 to 3 times, that 30 seconds to a minute hold, and then we'll move on to the next one. Back into that lunge position, tucking the tailbone, and then holding here again, 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, do both sides 2 to 3 times, and then that will be it for your stretching and your whole workout. Okay, that is it for session 3. So we did our mobility, deadlifts, front squat, lateral lunge, and calf raises, and then we did our stretching at the end. If you haven't checked out session 1 or session 2, go look at those. You can learn a little bit more and some of the things that we've already done before. I go in depth on those exercises like the calf raises. Other than that, just keep your eye out for our podcast, recipe videos, more workout videos, vlogs, we're doing all the things. And also next week for session number 4.